Welcome back. You're watching the RPG Club, where we look at tips and tricks for running campaigns and clubs for your local schools and communities. I'm your host, Tori Norman, and today we're going to be looking at building a map using the new Dungeon Craft dungeon tile system. So if you haven't heard of Dungeon Craft before, you'll want to make sure to click the link below to one of my videos where I'll review it for you. Dungeon Craft is a paper dungeon tile system that just came off of a very successful Kickstarter campaign here in the beginning of 2020. Today we're going to be building one of the maps from the Acquisitions Incorporated campaign series. I really like using Acquisitions Incorporated for schools. Not only is it fun and kind of lighthearted, but it also incorporates a lot of business concepts, and as a business teacher, I love having a chance to incorporate running your own business and that entrepreneurial element of it into the games and kind of weave education in it very secretly. And that's one of the benefits that I see coming out of Dungeons and Dragons. So I run the Acquisitions Incorporated system in almost all of my campaigns, but the campaign itself built into the book is an awesome one to start with and works in the world of Phandalin, which should be familiar to anyone who's played the starter sets, Lost Mines of Phandelver. But that said, we're going to jump into one of the maps for Acquisitions Incorporated. So as always, there's a spoiler alert. If you have not played this campaign before and you're hoping to play it as a player, you may want to skip this video because we're going to go into the entire map and look at all the secret areas and some of the things that you may not want to know to get the full benefit of playing it. So if you're planning to be a player, skip this video. If you're planning to DM this campaign, then dive in with me and let's take a look at the map. So before we get started, let me tell you the map we're going to be working with today. This is the map of the cellars to Tresendar Manor. Many of you might recognize that if you played Lost Mines of Phandelver. In Acquisitions Incorporated, we're coming back to Tresendar Manor. Only this time it's going to be the headquarters for the local branch of Acquisitions Incorporated. So the map's going to look very similar to the layout and setup of the Red Brand Hideout if you've watched my video on that, but there's a few small changes to it that I'll go over briefly here in this video. So that said, let's dive in and take a look at my map. Now, as you look at my map, you'll see that it's not exactly 100% to scale with the Tresendar Manor map in the book, and you'll find anytime you use dungeon tiles, you kind of have to be creative and work with what you've got. So everything isn't always 100% to scale, but close enough that your players get the whole feel and essence of the map and can still explore all the rooms. I promise that unless they've played and DM'd this before, they're probably not going to really notice the minor differences that come from using the dungeon tiles. So let's dive into piece by piece and take a look at how I set up Tresendar Manor and why I chose to do it this way. So here we are back at Tresendar Manor. If you have read kind of the storyline for Acquisitions Incorporated, this storyline takes place 3 years after Lost Mines of Phandelver in the same exact location. So a lot of the places that were featured in that campaign are featured again here. One of those is this Manor Basement. So since I've already featured the Manor Basement in the Red Brand Hideouts map that I did on our last video, I'm not going to go over all the details of the map. Instead, I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights. And if you want to see the rest of it, you can go back and rewatch or watch the Red Brand's Hideout to get all of the details that are involved. So we're going to start here in the basement. This is where the party typically begins. And again, we've got kind of this stairwell system here at the beginning that flows into this main cellar room. There aren't a lot of differences here. The biggest difference is all of the boxes and barrels and things that were here last time are all gone now. So I removed all of those and left it pretty much empty. Also, you'll notice in the readings that the pool is poisoned this time. I leave just the regular pool I had last time so I don't spook the users. But if the party discovers that it is poisoned, either because they did some kind of investigation on it or just drank it and realized they're now poisoned, once they figure it out, you can, if you want to, flip it over. They are two-sided, and I feel like this creepy purple stuff actually indicates really well that this is poisoned with ghoul gut. And then that reminds the characters that they need to deal with that eventually. We do have a secret entrance over here. I didn't feature that in the last map because we went the other direction, but I do have these empty crates that I use, or empty chests that I use as my secret entrance icon. So you can place one of those there if they discover that and go into the other side. If we go up the other end, we can look at the hallway. In the Red Brand hideout, the pit was hidden, and that was one of the traps that the characters could fall into. This time the trap has already been sprung, and instead they have a couple of zombies that are, well, not zombies really, they don't know they're zombies at the moment. They're dead bodies hanging from a noose over the pit. I think it's kind of to ward off people, kind of scare people. But they do animate and begin attacking the characters if they get too close. As I mentioned in the last video, when there's stuff that's supposed to be a prop that comes to life, I don't like to just spook the users by having the characters there. And so what I end up doing, or the 3D characters anyway, so what I end up doing is I lay down the 2D tiles to make it feel like it's a prop item, and hopefully they come in with the same level of skepticism that their characters would otherwise, but I don't spook them early. And then if these characters do animate and come to life, then I can throw a couple of 3D icons or 3D characters on top of that, and they become characters at that point, and then they start fighting. So those are there. Another character to be aware of, on the crypt side, they have the tombs, the sarcophagus, I guess, if you will, and there were supposed to be 4 of them. One of them was supposed to be a little smaller. I didn't have a smaller icon at the time, so I just left the 3 and animated one of them. I don't think it really matters because they're all looted anyway, but if you wanted to, you could add a smaller one, print something out or something, and throw it in there. I just left the 3 and animated this one and turned it into my mimic when they go through. So that's kind of the only things that are really different about this end of the manor. If they get into the secret areas, let's come up here. This area used to be filled with boxes and crates. Now it's just a bunch of dead bodies. Again, we don't have dead body icons, so I just used the bones. That seemed to work well enough. So I just scattered a bunch of bones in that space and kind of did it that way. And then the other big difference is the Red Brand's room. There aren't Red Brands there anymore. So when they get there, now they've got this little glowing icon. So they've got a portal that's opened up to the other world, and a gibbering mouther comes out there. These icons come in several different sizes. They've got one that's 3x3. I thought about putting that in, but it just seemed too big. So I used a 2x2 icon. They come in green or red, but we definitely want to use the red since they're emphasizing red in the color schemes in the book itself. It just seems to fit when you're dealing with demons and creatures of the undead. So that's there. Other than that, most of the map is actually pretty much the same. One thing I didn't mention in my last one that I thought I would here, usually I use small hallways for things like this, but one of the things that annoyed me is the hallway was open to the gaping cave, and I felt, or cavern, and I felt like characters were going to try and go through there thinking it was a door. So what I actually did, oops, didn't move the map, there we go. This hallway right here, the secret hallway into Glassstaff's old room. So what I ended up doing was I actually used one of my corner pieces like this one, and I just slid it underneath Glassstaff's room so that I got this wall down here on the bottom. And that way I didn't worry about characters trying to sneak through there thinking that it's an opening hallway when really it's a wall. So those are a few things that I did to kind of transform the Red Brand hideout into the new Tresendar Manor base of operations for the Acquisitions Incorporated team based out of Phandalin. If you liked this map and you want to see more, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. If you have any comments on how I can improve this map, leave those in the comments below. Also, if there's a map that you would like to see created using the Dungeon Craft tiles, add that into the comments below and we'll see what we can do to create that as well. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more maps, tips, and tricks for your RPG Club here on the RPG Club channel.